Hello and welcome to a special interview episode here on Captain's Dry Dock. And I'm really excited because in the Dry Dock today, I'm interviewing the prop maker on such productions as Star Trek, Back to the Future 3, The Hobbit, Total Recall, Beetlejuice, and many, many more. His name is Michael Moore, and I'm going to introduce you to him. Let's make it real. Right, Michael Moore. If anyone doesn't know you, they should do, and not by the means of Michael Moore, the director, Michael Moore, the prop maker. Now, brief introduction about you, because your list is endless, it really is. When people probably see you like I did on the internet, like on Facebook, YouTube, I just thought, yeah, this is some guy who loves replicating props from TV and film. But no, you're not the guy replicating. You are the guy that made the props from TV and film.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
And I don't think many people realise that. And I think I've listened to an interview of you before, and you've actually mentioned how you'd be at a con or somewhere, and someone will say, I've made this to be super accurate. And they'll almost argue with you saying, no, this is really accurate. And you're like, no, I made that.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm always trying to be, I would rather give constructive criticism on anything. If there's any criticism at all, it's just that in some people on the internet and at conventions, they want to be above everybody else. When you get onto a subject with somebody at a convention and they start saying, this is more accurate than the original, like, that's kind of an oxymoron kind of situation there. And I don't like to get into those situations and argue with people about stuff like that. But I'll generally either walk away or change the subject. But in some cases, they just want to push it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but you're missing the whole point here is you can't be more accurate than what you're trying to replicate.
Have you had a story where someone literally went white as a ghost when you told them who you were in regards to?
I generally speaking try not to tell them who I am.
Yeah.
I actually was at one of the conventions in the UK, Destination Star Trek. The first Star Trek convention I did in the UK, but I remember being at that convention for the first time.
Yeah.
And they had a mini museum, which was just a strip of costumes and props and stuff like that. And I had my little table all the way at the end.
Yeah.
And then and a big picture of me on the wall right here over my head.
Yeah.
Saying who I was. But I can't tell you how many people would look at the props and go, well, who are you? And I would just do that. And that's the thing. I'm not really, how do I put this? I'm not there really to have all the glory and all that. It's like I'm actually at the conventions to talk to people. I've been going to conventions since I was in high school.
So you're a fan generally. It's not just like you just do this as a job, but you are generally a fan.
In general, yeah. I mean, because I have my thing that I really like, which I'm very much into puppetry.
Oh, okay.
And actually do make puppets and perform puppets, not as a profession, as a hobby, and I help other people, other puppeteers and so on, try and build their hand puppet.
Because you worked on Gremlins, didn't you?
I've worked on Gremlins, but not on the puppets.
Okay, yeah.
On Munchies, which was the Gremlins ripoff for the first movie.
Yeah.
I worked on that and one of the people making the puppets for that.
See,
and performed them as well.
Yeah, because the thing is, I only know you because of Star Trek, and in fact, I think a lot of people do know you because of Star Trek. Because again, it's such a global franchise, going from the original series even today and beyond. But it wasn't until I actually thought, actually, I want to do some research, and go, what else have you done? What's your portfolio? You can't have just been doing Star Trek, although you could have done because it pretty much went on for every single decade. But I literally, I went down the list. I don't know how true this is because it's the internet, but you worked on The Hobbit,
Yeah.
Back to the Future 3.
Yes.
Yeah. Beetlejuice,
Yes.
Total Recall,
Yeah.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves,
Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Batman Forever.
Correct.
The list is endless. You are basically your portfolio. It must be if it's an old school portfolio, not digital. It must be like huge with like the films that everyone grew up with, who is probably watching this now.
Well, you know what's funny is, okay, I have an IMDb page, okay, on the internet, but it doesn't list everything because in some cases we may have done one or two things at a shop, so it's not necessarily listed there, or even if it was just one thing and I could remember what it was.
Yeah.
Because I've actually worked on over 400 films.
Wow.
And at least that many TV shows.
Wow.
And I'm not talking about an episode. I'm talking about like ongoing work.
Yeah.
I mean, so like you said, Back to the Future. I also worked on Critters 2.
One of my favorites. I did like Critters 2.
Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
Tales from the Crypt. Munchies, Reanimator, The Abyss, Dances with Wolves, Captain America, worked on The Flash, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Adam's Family Values.
So actually, one of my questions, we jumped to it, was very much like, because I got into special effects. In fact, it was your efforts that got me into special effects. When I was growing up as a kid, my dad always said to me, if you're going to do a job 3/4 of your life, do something you enjoy. And I like model making and I like Star Trek. And it was watching the props and the models all on Star Trek that got me into it. And they bought me this book. So in this book, there's some of your props in here. And that got me to special effects. I did special effects, a very short career for about a year. And after there was no money in it. I was renting, and I needed to get what they say, a proper job, shall we say. So I worked in an office as a graphic designer. But then again, it seems that a lot of prop makers and model makers do have a second talent as graphic designers. So I ended up being a graphic designer, but I'm now slowly going back into prop making as private commissions. And it was only then, that's how I discovered prop making. And one of the things I found when I was making props for TV shows in Britain, I worked on a TV show called Hornblower, London's Burning. And one thing I found is that especially when you first start, there's not much money out there. Basically, the industry thrives on people wanting that job. And if you're living with your parents, it's fantastic. If you're not, it's really difficult. So my question, which we kind of jumped to there, it just sounded like you literally went from one job to another, or even overlapped. Did you ever have a time when it was a lull and you had no work on and you had to work in a factory or a desk job?
Okay, well, me starting my career, technically speaking, started in high school. So, ninth through 12th grade. And I was working part-time through a program with my school at a comic book store.
Yeah, okay.
So instead of getting paid, they paid us in comic books. So while working there, I met a few people here and there. But at this point in my life, I was really into horror makeup and horror. Okay.
Yeah.
And so my friend and I, Jeff Farley, who actually still works in the film industry in makeup, he and I would we always had something going on, but we would offer just before Halloween we'll make you a custom mask or something. Basically, over time, I ended up, going, I kind of really need some money because I wasn't really making anything in those regards with any of that stuff. So I ended up, I did retail at one point out of high school. And then I went into aerospace and worked at an aerospace company. I originally went in to help them install their telephone system, and ended up working in the actual shop, putting together and building valves.
Okay.
Which was, SR-71 parts and F-15s and blah, 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 and part of the Bradley tank, and some of the environmental valves that went on the spacesuit for the shuttlecraft.
So you do have a tenuous link between Star Trek and real space.
And to a certain point, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So so is that how you built your skills up? Was that a course you did at college, or did you just naturally fall into it?
No, I was actually, my father was one of those guys who, we can put that in, don't worry, we'll reinstall that part in the car, we'll get that new alternator, we'll get that, It's like, okay. And I would be the one who'd always help him. So basically, when I was about 7 years old, my parents asked me what I wanted. I said I wanted a toolbox, hammers, pliers, blah, 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 which I got. But I didn't get kids' toys.
They gave you a real toy. No health and safety there, is there?
Real toolbox that had real pliers, real hammer, screwdriver, full set of screwdrivers, blah, 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 because I was also one of those kids who would, we're not going to have this, if this is broken, okay, and I would go take it apart.
Yeah.
Now, 99% of the time, I couldn't put it back together, but I could see how things worked and so on. So during my entire life, I have been technically building things. When I was in high school, we had wood shop and metal shop and all the stuff you should have in a school to inspire, which they don't have here in most other schools in the United States anymore. For certain states do, but not many.
Because you're based in California, aren't you?
Yes, I'm in California. Yeah. And so I would always be building something. And at that point, I was also branching out into others, starting to learn how to use resins and stuff like that, epoxy, making latex molds, and because I didn't know what silicone was yet earlier on in that point. And at this point, see, I was also when I was in high school, I was also making some things and selling them at school to people.
Oh, okay. Basically, that is how it got you into actually making stuff for money and making a career out of it.
Well, that's what was making my money to buy the other stuff like latex, plaster, and stuff like that, and anything else that any materials I wanted.
Yeah.
But then after I was let go in aerospace, because while I was in aerospace, working in aerospace, I was going to college to get certified in plastics.
Okay, right. So you did have a specialty, a grounded specialty to sure, I keep on saying proper jobs, but I'm talking about a 9 to 5 type of job. So
that's what the aerospace thing was for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would, because I would go from there, and then I would go drive 45 minutes. Now it's more like an hour and a half if I want to go to the same place now. But I drive 45 minutes to be at class at 7. So I would go from work, directly get on the freeway and go to class, do the class, and be home by midnight.
That's great. That's incredible.
But that's the thing. And after I got to class, because during this period of time between high school and working in aerospace, I had already built my own vacuum formers, and you know, they're not hard to make. People just, you know, oh.
Yeah, I know.
And so I was actually instead of me actually taking the class and participating in all the stuff, because I was already doing everything the class was already doing.
Yeah.
In my garage.
Wow.
So the teacher basically had me was grading me as if I was taking the class, so I can get my certification. But I was actually the teacher's aide.
That is incredible. That is a feat of, I've never heard that before, and I can't. And that's the way, in a way, that education is all about getting that qualification rather than actually learning. Sometimes, in my own experience, because in the UK, to get into what I got into, there was a university course for it called model making. So I got a degree in model making. I think it's got more of a fancy name. And but the thing is, I learned more actually being in a studio, being at a workshop, doing work experience than I did actually in university. And it's interesting that you did that, but you did it the other way around, where they recognise, yeah, actually you learned your craft. You came in, we recognised that you didn't have to learn it here, but here's a certificate saying we actually recognise that. We want to let everyone know it's official. This guy knows his shit, basically. But so how did that link to the film? Like this, I can see where it's going. So how did that jump go from aerospace, bang, suddenly you're making props for films?
I got called by the guy I was working for the comic book store, who worked in the, you know, for doing optics. I got called into a company called CPC,
Yeah,
which is one of the companies where he worked for from time to time, but he also had equipment there. So I got called in to do something for a week, that we were doing a commercial for Mexico and Central America, which basically condensed milk in cans that had to fly through the air rotating. So I was building the rig that did that.
okay.
I'm still in high school, mind
Yeah.
you. I've taken a week off of school. School thought I was sick. And I did that. And at the last 2 days that I was there, there's a movie called History of the World Part 1 by Mel Brooks. Well, my friend got the job to do the optical printing and layup for layers. I was the one having to align everything up for that shot. Well, it was basically, okay, yeah, give that 3 taps with the mallet. Give that one go the other direction. You know, lightly tap, 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 tap. Okay, right there, good. I was called by one of my friends who was working on a set, who said, I just got another job, so can you take over for me? And that was on Reanimator. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, what am I going to be doing since I'm taking over? Oh, we're going to be applying makeup for this movie. Okay, sure. Okay. So I rushed down there with because I actually have a makeup box. I rushed down there and started applying makeup.
Do you know what? There seems to have been that golden era where people could just fall into it in regards to like, you want to do it? Yeah, fine. Because I watched a documentary on Star Wars recently. I think it was called 1976 or something. It's on Netflix, and they're interviewing a lot of the actors, the background actors, and how they got into Star Wars. And a lot of them was like just turned up. There was a sign saying casting, turned up. Yeah, you got the job. That was it. And I found that especially because in the 60s and 70s, that was a golden era for prop making and model making in the UK, as we know, with Thunderbirds and whatnot. Sadly, I literally grew up and got into the industry just when it started tapering off in the 90s. So just when CGI went crazy. Now it's slowly going back. It's slowly going back to real world models and whatever. And it sounds like that was the case with you. It's like a little bit, not that I believe in luck and fate, but it kind of just happened. It's like, you're a good maker, you're a maker, and you just fell into it.
And all of and once again, see all the people, now the ones that I'm talking about, my friend calls me up and so on, is these are all people who know each other, and we would play doing stuff. One of my friends who basically came out from Kentucky and wanted to work in the film industry was Mike Hood, and he basically he's the one who ended up getting another job on another show. When he called me up, I didn't show my portfolio. It was like, oh, just show up, you have the job. Okay, great. And then, once again, I always have something going on, always. If I got here, I'm at the shop right now, okay?
Yeah.
Hence the reason there's all this.
Yeah, I did think that wasn't your bedroom.
So I always have at least 12 projects going on at any one moment, minimum. And some of them I haven't touched in a couple of years, but they're in a box somewhere out in the shop area. And that when I stumble across, oh, I need to finish that. Okay. And I have stuff, lying all over the place all the time.
I can imagine that's a gold mine, a treasure trove, because I'm picturing in those boxes as some sort of nugget. And
I can reach out with my arm right here and go, oh, look, there's some screen used Bajoran pips.
Yeah, I didn't recognize those. That's incredible.
Here's the back half of a Klingon disruptor. So it's things like that. Okay, mundane items. Okay, you know what that is?
No.
Okay, that you would put this into a barrel.
Yeah.
And that's
oh, yes. I recognize it, yeah.
This is from Pirates of the Caribbean.
That's incredible.
So it's just stuff. I've got a lot of stuff here,
You're basic filmmaker. Like, I know people who are probably watching this, basically people watching this, what that value in your room is, like, it is a treasure trove. There's no, it's basically the history of film and TV.
Yeah, and that's where it is for me is the history. That's why I do my YouTube channels, because I want, there's so much incorrect knowledge, I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Out there about how props were made, what they were, blah, 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 blah. And I'd rather put the history out there. But at the same time, most people behind the camera, unless you're a supervisor, the director, the producer, or the actors, do not get credit in a film. Most of my credits from all the films I've worked on and so on, I am not credited.
Yeah, I know. When I was working special effects, any stuff I worked on, it was the company I worked for got the credit, or even the director, not you, who actually did the 12-hour days, 3 o'clock in the morning.
12-hour days.
I remember we were working on a runway where they built basically a sailing ship on a runway, because that's how they filmed it. This was for Hornblower, and me about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on the motorway, going home. I had to pull over. I was falling asleep. It was like, because I did a whole day, and then during the late hours or all the early hours in the morning. Real life about prop making. People know the glory part because it's fantastic. It's on the screen. But well, if and when your title goes up, but when you see your work on the screen, that is fabulous. But the work it took to go on there, how has that impacted, shall we say, your home life? And has that got to the point where you're like, I need to make a decision to either slow down or somehow, I don't know, try and work around this? Because as when we're younger, when we get into the industry of film, shall we say, it's great. It's fine when you're in your early 20s because you haven't got a partner, you haven't got kids, most likely, you haven't got money either. So you've got no ties. But as you get older and you get a mortgage, you get kids, you get a partner. If you go for that, if that's your trajectory, have you found it really hard to balance that industry with your home life?
Well, yes. But on the other side of the fence, you have, if you're trying to have a relationship with someone, in general, okay, when I first started on Next Gen, for the first 3 seasons, I had a kind of a normal work time, which I would be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would get out of there by about, let's say, 5 o'clock. All right. After the 3rd season, I started myself and all the people who worked on Star Trek in the shop I was working for were all laid off. Some of us were fired because they brought in all new people and wanted to bring in all new people.
Okay.
Any of the new supervisors, everything. So my supervisor from that job and I started a new company, started doing stuff. And when Star Trek found out that we were no longer with that company, they came a calling.
Nice. So you had a really good reputation with the producers of Star Trek.
Right. Well, it's because anything that we ever did was we had maximum of 6 days to do it.
Wow. Anything.
If then, even if in some cases overnight. It can be very stressful. It can be very if you're not good with thinking on your feet, then you're going to have to start reworking how you think. As far as relationships, my wife knew that I was in the film industry when we started. She also, her father was an actor. Her uncles were actors and producer, and so on. So that her family was already integrated into the film industry to a point, but she technically wasn't yet. It could be very daunting for even a single person, like you said, if you don't have some place that maybe you're not paying rent. It could be very daunting in that a lot of significant others aren't willing to deal with, well, what do you mean we can't go out this weekend and you have to be at the shop to work on this for Monday morning? Well, I just got the job on Friday, so it needs to be done Monday.
Yeah.
Well, what about, So finding the right person that will be acceptant of that is not the easiest task in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, finding someone that you can live with anyway is not the hardest.
It's true.
Harder than anything, even as a roommate. Okay.
Yeah.
But in general, it's very hard on a relationship. I mean, look how many actors, okay?
Yeah.
How many actors get married 6 months later, they're not married, and so on and so on. I mean, I know people who work in the film industry, including my brother, who's on his 3rd wife.
Wow, that's quite a lot. And that's because of that's because of the film industry and
Yes, and well, there's other reasons too, but But generally speaking, when you're as someone like, in my instance, I've been an owner of a company ever since I left that first company. Okay. And therefore, you don't have a schedule.
Yeah, cool.
You are the boss and everything else. And unlike other bosses, I take it personally that I have a responsibility to get the project done, whether my people can come in or not.
So in a way, it's like if someone's coming in the industry, what they should be looking forward to as like a goal is to run their own company. So they don't do that. No?
Actually, if it's a bigger company, okay, if it's a bigger company, you may be better off as an employee because of possible benefits, medical, blah, blah, blah. But generally speaking, if it's a bigger company, you in some cases have okay, well, that's going to be a 15-day project, not a 6-day project.
Yeah.
But for certain productions, especially TV, you don't necessarily have the option of telling them there's no way that's going to be done in 6 days. And basically, after you've been doing something like on Star Trek for a while, you're thought of as a miracle worker. You guys figure it out and you get it done. What it really comes down to is that you work, how do I put this? You end up, your mind changes on how you approach things in a minimum of time.
Yeah.
You start learning all the shortcuts you can take to get something sculpted and molded and cast and cleaned up.
So it's basically nothing's impossible. It's got to be done. This is what
everything is possible as long as you have, if you have really time, money,
free, yeah,
and the talent.
Yeah.
Well, no. Good, fast, and cheap is
that's it. The good, fast, and cheap. Yeah, I thought you were going that way.
You're only supposed to be able to pick two.
That's right. Yeah.
But on Star Trek, we were basically usually doing all three all the time.
That's good. Actually, yeah. First off, I want to plug your YouTube channel. So it's Propology, isn't it? So basically,
Propology 101.
So if you want to actually get the best reference to Star Trek props, or in fact, outside Star Trek, are you doing other props outside Star Trek?
Yeah, it depends on what I have a master for. And so,
okay,
I worked on Sequest, we worked on Space Above and Beyond. At a certain point, we were working on almost every science fiction TV show.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
The basic YouTube channel out there, if anyone's wanting to actually get the best reference to a prop other than actually going to an auction and actually ripping off the pictures and measurements, go to Propology 101, Michael Moore, it should be tagged, and you will get the best reference to the masters of these props. And actually, this kind of bugged me because I was about to remake a prop which I didn't think was made, and I'll show you this because I love this prop, and it wasn't until I looked at your YouTube channel you'd already made it. That.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what that is, that was one of the ideas, the sketches of the phases, what they're going to look like in Star Trek Next Generation. And I love that design. And I was thinking, right, I'm going to make my own, because there seems to be a trend in making now where people are making prototypes. So if you've seen Star Wars Stormtroopers, people are making the prototype Stormtroopers, which are really popular. And I thought that would be cool. I love the red lights at the end of it. And then lo and behold, I went onto your YouTube channel, and this was only a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, it was made. It was actually made, but rejected.
It doesn't work right now.
Oh, does that actually? I didn't actually put that down as a question, but it's a really relevant one. Even though you get paid to do what you do, is it? And as a designer, as a graphic designer, it is disheartening. You make something; it's taking you a week to make, and they go, "No."
On that one, I didn't get paid for it at all.
Oh, so what did you did it on your own back?
Yeah,
Why? Did you love it because I love it as well?
because that was the one. Okay, that's the drawing we got.
Hmm.
There were like 3 different designs. That's the
Yeah.
one we got. One of the other shops that was being used at the time got the other drawing.
Okay.
But usually we would get all the drawings. And see, when we're given a drawing, generally speaking, it's like, oh, you're probably going to make that.
Yeah.
And so it ended up turning into, oh no, that's the wrong one. We didn't go with that design. Well, then why did you send it?
So you still had to make it, and it came out of your budget, so you did not get paid.
It came out of my own. No, I actually made most of that in my garage, not at the shop.
Yeah.
You know, when I was done with it, I actually made one that actually lit up too.
Is it common for a maker to have what was it, multiple strings to their bow? So you're a sculptor, you're an electronics specialist, you're a mold and caster. Is that common, or is it better to be a specialist in one of those areas?
But I generally prefer to have people who do a variety of things, and people who are not afraid of trying to do it. Well, I'm not a painter. Have you tried?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
We had an intern who came in from one of the schools over here for some work experience, and she was eager. She was willing to do whatever you wanted her to do. So we ended up starting to show her how to do certain things, and went through, all this process and everything else. And so now she is one of the assistant prop masters. I think she's an assistant. Either way, she now works at Disney as a prop assistant. I'll just put it that way. A prop assistant, helping to, in some cases, create and or supply, find out where they can get certain things for a children's show. We also had an intern from the UK.
Yeah.
Her name is Kat. And so I met her parents at that first convention in London.
Oh yeah.
And she was, well, she's really into that. I'm like, okay, fine, we'll talk to her. So we talked to her. She flew out and was here for, I think it was 2 months.
Oh, nice.
And so we showed her some stuff. In the meantime, she's a cosplayer. She went to the university for prop making as well.
Yeah.
And but she runs her own business out of her house, out of the house that she lives in. She has a workshop and everything. While she was here, we're like, well, this is how we do this here. She already had some skills and everything already. She could basically sculpt and everything else. But we were showing her, how to do the fiberglass and how to do this and how to do that. And then in the meantime, she also wanted to make a umbrella from one of the last Harry Potter films that wasn't Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It was I forgot what his name is. It was a prequel.
Okay.
Prequel. Okay. Well, one of the ladies had a like an umbrella, magical umbrella. So we ended up helping her make that with making clear vacuform slices. So, and with a wand attached to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So she did that for one of her friends who was here. And that was cool, and once again, it's that type of stuff that understanding how to do certain things really well is fine and important.
Yeah.
But knowing how to at least generally do some painting, generally doing some sculpting, generally doing some molding. You don't have to be an expert because, realistically, as long as your mold works when you're making parts, yes, if it's a pretty mold, it's easier to clamp together or whatever. It's not as difficult. But as long as you can get your part that you need out of it, I wouldn't take a mold and make it all one piece and then you got to slice it open. If I'm going to make a production bunch of parts out of it. But if you're only making one or two out of it, then do it that way. It'll save you lots of time.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the fence, if you need to, like on Star Trek, we never knew on Star Trek how many pieces of anything we were going to need until we were in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we did like a phaser, for instance, I had to always think of it as, okay, I need to be able to get 20 out of this mold. That's generally speaking, the cycle for most silicone molds is about 20 high-end castings. So I would engineer my molds for said thing. And after you've learned over time how you're making these things, you come up with shortcuts to make it easier and faster to make X molds and X parts. Because if not, once again, you don't have the time and luxury of noodling something for 4 days before you make a mold.
Yeah. I think actually that's a really good point, and there's an enjoyment of actually streamlining your process, because the first time you do anything, it's not going to be great. It's when you do it again and again and again, and finally you've actually made the process so streamlined. It runs itself. It's actually a really good segue because I'm making my my first phaser. Actually, I'm using Fusion 360, completely different technology to when back in the day you did it. It's the Phaser Type 2 phaser. It's one of my favorites. It's like the dolphin type phaser. And the dolphin phaser was, like I said in my video on YouTube, is, that design came from myself and Bear Burge. Yeah, then that was incredible how much influence you had to put into that. Actually, what did you put any electronics in that, or was that all post-production?
Oh no, we put electronics in them for First Contact.
Oh, okay. So what was
it?
And
then after First Contact, they decided to do, Say again?
Was it just the meter on it? Was that the electronics where you go up and down the levels of stun to kill?
On that one, yes.
Okay, right. Yeah, because that's one thing.
There's no tip light.
Yeah, yeah. There's no tip light. One day there will be, but no, because that's one thing a lot of people are trying to work out is like when you're trying to replicate as much as you can the effect to the prop, especially like when makers like myself, we want to make it like we want to make fantasy and reality come together as much as we can. And one of the question I asked before about being multi-talented, like electronics. I can wire up an LED, I can wire up an Arduino unit, but when it comes to coding and capacitors, and I think nowadays we are in such a great stage where we got the internet and we can go online, pay some guy in Pakistan, which I've done. So there's websites like People Per Hour, Fiverr.com, and you can pay some guy who'll bid on it and who'll do all the coding, all the circuitry, and you wire it all up. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm just trying to work out how to put it all inside this phaser. But going back to the technology of today, like I'm using Fusion 360, where I'll spend ages working out if everything works, the buttons move, does it actually is a nice size. But in your day, you literally had to go from sketch. Did you sculpt it or was it machined? Because it's quite, everything in Star Trek Next Generation was these sloping lines, these lovely lines, and it's like, usually that's sculpted, which is kind of hard in a way, because you have to get everything symmetrical, which is again, a bit of a nightmare.
Nope, not symmetrical.
Yeah, I thought not.
No. Basically, depending on what you're making, okay. Once again, mindset of how to do things. So when you get a sketch, you look at it, and it usually was a 3/4 view.
Yeah.
There were very few times that we got a side view, a front view, a bottom view, and all that. It was usually a 3/4 view, and it had just been approved by Rick Berman or one of the other producers for the show, and then it was faxed to us. We would take that drawing then and extrapolate, because once again, no Photoshop and Illustrator at that point that anybody really had. A computer was still something like, like a Mega 64, a Commodore 64.
Commodore 64, yeah, I used to have one.
And they were too expensive. So we didn't, and most of us didn't want to ever deal with it.
Yeah.
Because we were working on such a fast cycle here. That's the other point. See, is when you're building something and you've got 6 days to do it, you don't have time to sit there and noodle out this and this. You go, okay, well, I'm going to say that this is 8 inches and that this is 4 inches. So it's a rectangle. We're doing it. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. And you just go, you end up getting in your mind, that your mind is working out what the perspective dimensions are.
Yeah.
Which, once again, is not the easiest thing in the world to extrapolate. But then when you show it to, like, say, Rick Sternbach, and something, wow, you guys did a great job in copying that,
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we would take it, extrapolate what our dimensions were, because in some cases it was important to be a certain size.
Oh yeah, because you would not have got, like, it's not like an architectural plan. They'll give you loads of, like, centimeters or inches in your terms. You'd have to work it out for yourself, wouldn't you? I didn't think about that. Of course, no.
They would give us a 3/4 view and go, that's it. And then we might go, well, give us a general size, how long it would be at least. And then we would work that out.
Work out.
No, but see, after a certain amount of time, I was on the phone all the time with Rick Sternbach and or the prop master, going, okay, this drawing, the prop master would go talk to Rick Sternbach. So I'd talk to Rick and I go, Rick, okay, so this piece, what race is it? Because there also wouldn't be necessarily any colors listed yet.
Okay, right.
So we would be building things, but we set up almost a system of, these are Bajoran colors, these are Federation colors, these are Romulan colors.
Yeah.
So we had an idea, but we would basically go through and say, hey, Rick, we were thinking about on this piece that the body's going to be, this is the base coat. And then these are going to be the accent colors, like on da-da-da-da-da. And he'd go, yeah, great, go with it.
Just like that. Just.
Or it would be, well, I was thinking more of a green, purple, yellow. And we're like, so what color is that? And we didn't have Pantone books.
Yeah.
Rick had Pantone books because he had to have them for sets and stuff. We didn't have that because Pantone books are expensive.
Yeah.
Plus we didn't have time to go out and find one.
No.
So we would get a design, we would make it up. The prop master would occasionally come by before we were finished and go, oh, Did you put any lights in that? Are there supposed to be lights in it? You know, well, yeah, you need to put them here, here, here. These are all lights. Oh, okay, great.
Do you know what? It's very familiar because I worked at an architectural model makers. It's one of my first jobs making, and I did it for about 3 months, and it was very much like that. They gave you the plan, no colours. It was very much, you had to make up the bits they didn't put in, and you're like, there's that meant to be? And when you make the model, they're like, where's this? Well, there was nothing there in the first place. You need to tell us. And you had to make it up. It's almost like you were helping the design process, and it sounds like you had a lot of freedom in Star Trek.
Within reason, yes.
Yeah. So actually, going back to Star Trek and the props, I think I know the answer to this. What was your favorite prop? Was it the tricorder? If there's anything you'd produce on Star Trek, and I don't mean just by aesthetics, but the pleasure of making it, or is there something, basically, if your house burnt down now, what prop would you take out and run out to the garden?
If my house burnt down right now, nothing, because it's not.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My house is full of Star Wars.
Ooh.
And stuff that my wife likes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And I have a few Muppet pieces here and there, but that's it. I have more on display here.
So, okay, if your workshop burned down, other than your staff or like your any like pictures of your family, what would you take? What prop would you run out with?
See, there's the problem. There's the problem. If the fire was over in the office side, I would grab all of my hard drives.
Oh, actually, that's a good answer. Yeah. It's all the documentation.
It was on the
other side, in the shop space, I would be telling everybody to dump all the trash out of the trash cans. And I'm going to start pushing masters off the second floor into the trash cans, and you're going to yank them outside.
Yeah. So basically, masters. No one prop, just masters, because they're all precious to you.
Well, yes, because Star Trek's history. Okay, this is where to me, history of anything is important.
Of course, yeah.
And in many cases, the only way to illustrate history is to show them the history.
Yeah.
Let alone, I mean, I've slowly, and I'll say slowly because at times it's like, take it too long. I've slowly started 3D scanning all of the masters.
Brilliant. Well, is that just to save them as like a snapshot, or would you make them available one day?
It's first of all, I call it my archive, which is basically all the masters and what I'm doing with the scanning, as well as all the photography. I probably have more still photography on Star Trek props than Paramount and CBS put together.
That is incredible. How have you not made a museum of Star Trek in your workshop somewhere? Because because again, going back to
because it takes up space and it costs money.
Of course, but through admissions, like literally, because I've traveled down California a couple of times motorbiking on Harley Davidsons, did the whole tourist thing, and you stop up for all these museums, and it is the place to go to when you want to see the Apollo stuff, the space shuttle stuff, obviously Paramount Pictures and whatnot. But with like, again, going back to your YouTube channel, Propology 101 to everyone. And by the way, I will put a link down below if you want to check out his YouTube site and subscribe, because it is gold if you're into prop making and wanting to replicate what you originally made. So that sort of material is gold. And to actually somehow, and again, it's all down to time, isn't it? Making it available for public consumption. Where would you do it? Would you put it on a website? Would you put it as a download somewhere? I don't know.
Well, I was originally at one point trying to do a book.
I would buy that book. I would.
which would end up being, if I did it the way I want to do it, it would be probably 12 coffee table books.
Yeah.
But once again, time, get it, because by the time you get your mind wrapped around what you're trying to do, you got to go off and do something else.
Yeah.
Then I was talking to another person about just doing a portfolio book, and that ended up, just getting pushed to the wayside because of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we were going hot and heavy on it, and then we had to stop because then there wasn't any more money. And it's I have all that information, but it doesn't do me any good.
No. Yeah, because like literally, as I said to you, like this book, that was invaluable. This is what made people get really into making and feel, well, for me anyway, this was it, because you saw the raw like diagrams to concept and stuff which was rejected. And also as makers, like again, lots of people are watching this are trying to replicate what you produced, and that is the most valuable resource. Other than, as I always advise people, the best resource at the moment we have is auction houses, because they take decent pictures, they have decent, and I mean proper pictures, not distorted from behind a glass where it's an exhibition somewhere. They've actually taken good pictures, but again, there's only so many of them. Like one of the first things I replicated, which I think you probably, did you do the com badges for TNG?
Yes.
Okay.
And next gen and DS.
This, I'm so glad to show you this. So this was my first thing I replicated from screen. So I even made sure I got the curvature. I made sure I again, the colors I close as I could get, because we don't have the same, I forget you, yeah, Krylon. We don't really get that over here, and I tried to get it imported, but you can't. It's but that was the first thing I actually made based on what you did, and yeah, people seem to love it. However, getting reference from it, unless you bought the actual thing from an auction house, and I know a few people did, who what they tend to do, they make a mold and recast them and sell them like on eBay and whatnot. That was the only way you can. I literally had to like zoom in on auction sites, they worked out in inches, and when it's in Europe, it's really hard to translate everything from inches to millimeters, which is a nightmare at that scale anyway. But that's where I say, please make that book, please, it would be awesome.
Once again, I would love to do the book because, I mean, I'd have to see, if I was going to do it myself, I would just do it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And, print on demand, and it's like, okay, whatever. And then I'd be able to go, okay, I need 10 copies of the book to take with me to X convention.
Yeah.
And, it's like, okay, here's this.
Yeah.
Just like, see, I've got, like, what I've been doing lately for conventions is I will bring a stack of original photographs of props, in 4x6s and so on. And some of them have, some things are there, like like this is that's the inside of the opening Cobra head phaser.
Oh, right, snapshot. I'm screenshotting that. That's brilliant.
But that's only one part of it.
Was that ever filmed? I can't remember seeing a Cobra head being opened.
Yeah, Data does it, and he either removes a piece from his arm and puts it in the phaser.
Yes. Yeah, because the phasers weren't able to be used on that planet because of radiation and whatnot, and he had to change. Yeah, that was right. I'm gonna have to look at that episode now.
Yeah. So, but basically, it's I when I go to conventions lately, that's what I'm doing, is because I've got, was it about 4,000 or 5,000 photos like that.
Yeah.
That basically that's what I do my autographs on.
Yeah, That's great to sign your own work, and I think a lot of people love that when people can sign certain models. And it's like, again, actors, it's a picture of themselves because it's them. With a maker, you sign your own products. And in fact, actually, just a query: like there was a company called Roddenberry's. You may have heard of it. Did they take a cast of your
We
prop?
manufactured all of their product.
Oh, so you were part of Roddenberry's then?
Yeah, we were the ones producing their prop replicas.
But I've taken up a lot of your time, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring it to close almost there. I'm just going to ask you one of these questions. I know it's going to sound funny. Did you ever sit in a captain's chair?
Yes.
You did. Which one?
Let's see. I've sat in the Enterprise
Yeah.
D.
Oh. Which was stolen, wasn't it? It was stolen, I heard. The one of two. Yeah, these ones. Yeah.
I sat in Klingon captain's chair.
Do you know what? That is brilliant. Actually, do you have any anecdotes about any props that were destroyed by actors and you've just gone that you can say?
Yeah.
You don't have to say it.
Yeah.
You don't have to say names either.
No, because they would know exactly who I'm talking to.
Okay, right. We'll leave it there, but at least I know that sometimes you can spend ages on a piece of work and it'd be destroyed later, and you just got to brace yourself on that.
Well, sometimes it can be destroyed before they even film it. So.
Oh, okay. Well, oh yeah, I've heard like lots of people play with it before it gets even to the actor. But actually, I'm going to ask one question, and basically it's to all those wanting to get into prop making or just making in the industry of theatre, film. What is your recommendation or tip or advice? What golden nugget would, if some kid sat in your lap right now and they said, Mr. Moore, how can I do, or what advice would you give me in getting into the industry now, today?
I would say basically, there's a lot. Okay, there's a lot of things to say about this, which is follow your dreams.
Yeah.
But be patient.
That's a good piece. Yeah, that's
Be very, very patient, because if it happens overnight, certain things happen overnight, you wouldn't have participated in the journey. And there are so many things to learn. Every time you walk into your shop or your school or whatever you're going to be doing, working in the theater or whatever, is you should every day think about, what did you learn today? What are you taking away when you're doing stuff? If you are if you know how to draw, then continue drawing with a pencil, but learn how to draw with Photoshop and Illustrator or any of the other 3D programs.
yeah.
Learn how to use a 3D program, even if you're never going to use it for what you're doing, because having a 3D program is, maybe you're going to look at a 3D render somebody did, and you're going to build it out of a block of wood. It's understanding those dimensions, understanding contours, understanding, here's a major thing, understanding your limitations, and then going, okay, I can't do that. But then it's going, okay, so I'm going to take one more step tomorrow toward being able to understand it, how to do it.
That's brilliant.
Learn everything you can. And unlike what some people tell you is, well, that's useless information. Well, guess what? Nothing is useless information. When I was working on we were working on toys with Robin Williams, and the prop master came into the shop and said, hey, so what do you know about, and this isn't to me, this is to my business partner.
Yeah.
What do you know about glass ornaments? And he goes, I don't know anything about glass ornaments. And I said, well, what do you want to know about them? And they go, well, what do you mean? I go, well, what kind? You want to do blown glass, or do you want to do solid glass ornaments, which would be really heavy? And they're like, oh, we want to do blown glass. I said, okay, well, this is the process. Be something and do something with your life.
Yeah.
There's no reason you can't be a neurobiologist and still build cosplay props.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, for me, I try and balance everything in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't used to do it then because the schedule was so rigid and horror. It really was horrid looking back at it.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, when you're in the thick of things and being creative, you're not thinking about how screwed up this might be.
Oh, Michael, like my daughter's only 20 months old now. And I have to say, when she starts being able to listen and understand language, I'll make her watch this video. And if she does want to go if she does go the direction of making, I'll definitely let her see this piece of advice, because I couldn't have said it any better. Basically, I'm going to draw this interview to a close because it is getting on. I've taken so much of your valuable time, and again, thank you so much. Again, as I mentioned before, I grew up doing what I started to do because of you, and also you're an inspiration to makers out there and currently who are making stuff for themselves and making their lives much more enjoyable, not just as a day job, but just fun to just make stuff that you made, and encourage them to use their minds and their hands, because we need more of that, more people to make things rather than just going out there to do a job making money. It's fantastic.
Exactly.
I love to show you my
Pass it on.
Yes, and I'd love to show you my phaser when I'm finished and get your opinion. You can be as brutal as you want, but it's using modern day materials like 3D printing, which I guess you would have loved back then in the day.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I do it now.
Oh, is that? Oh, nice. That is cute.
Yeah, no, I do. I embrace all technologies, but in general, I could probably carve this out of material and Bondo and so on before someone could draw it up and print it.
Yeah. Hands-on.
Because this was like 37 hours for print.
Yeah, takes a while.
Whereas, 37 hours on Star Trek is, oh, so how many copies did you make already?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I'll do my best to channel my viewers to your channel, because, man, you deserve more subscribers. It's gold.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I think I can actually hear my daughter crying as well, so it's probably good timing. So I've literally, because now it's COVID, we're all living in the same place all the time, and the kitchen's right there. So, but yeah, thank you so much, and you take care, and enjoy your Saturday.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care. Bye. Can you tell how much I enjoyed interviewing him? I know I turned into a little bit of a fanboy there, because I grew up watching the TV shows and films that his props were in, and I really hope you enjoyed that as well. And if there are any questions that you didn't feel that I asked that you wanted an answer to, if you just go down to the comments down below and put them there, I can forward them to him. Or better yet, you can go to his YouTube channel, link down below as well, and you can see basically his career of making props, and he goes into great detail on every single one that he actually uploads. Now, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see many more, by all means, click on the subscribe button down below, or the logo that's appearing around about here, and you'll see the latest episodes and get alerted when I upload them. In the meantime, my name's John Child, this is Captain's Dry Dock, and I'll see you on the next episode. You stay safe.